you recently got your CCDE written,
Yes,
right?
last
Congrats on
Friday.
that.
I had a voucher. The voucher expired on Saturday, so do it in the famous last moment, Friday.
So that was your first attempt?
No, second.
Okay.
Like Cisco Live, you always get free exams, so you always try something which you should prepare for, but long live work life, private life, and so you just sit there and try something. So I
Okay.
tried CCDE, and I was like I've been talking a lot longer with Siksha, Mark Holm, and all those guys about CCDE. Got books, read the books, and then I thought like, how hard can it be? Okay, it was quite a hard exam, or it was
Mm.
really a hard exam, but CCD is still an exam where they actually grade you with points, and I was 50 points short of a pass mark. I'm
Okay.
going like, okay. And then I still got a Cisco Learning free voucher, so I thought, well, let's now actually do a little bit of training and then go for the second attempt. And long story got short, passed it, so happy.
Okay. So I don't know much about CCDE exam, but is there a requirement to get the CCDE? Like, do you need to have your CCIE before getting your CCDE, or you can go
Nope,
straight to CCDE?
you can go straight. CCD is actually the only old Cisco exam track we all know, or if we're from the Stone Ages like you and me are. You could go straight to your CCIE also back in 2020 when I got it. You do your written exam and then you can go to the lab. This
Okay.
CCDE exam is actually a really a specialist exam, but it's the only 400 exam they still got left. So it was kind of special to me.
Okay. So because before they had the CCDE, and then probably the last was the architect
Yeah, but
exam.
the architect they canceled out, I
Okay.
think a long time ago. But yeah, well, oh well. I think we need to be a little bit realistic here that CCD is already going to be a tough cookie to crack.
Hmm. So do you the written in comparison to your CCIE, in comparison to CCIE written exam?
Yes, also did that one a couple of times. This
Okay.
one was harder because you need to like all the networking questions in there are like easy because well you got
Hmm.
your CCE, so it's the whole the business logic and thinking more business alike and actually understanding what the client asks you and trying to figure out with the questions you are given in the exam to yeah, to build it. Well, you're not building a case on that. That's the actual lab. But in the written exam, you still need to get every little detail out of the question to actually answer it correctly. Because Cisco, I have to give them credit for being absolute assholes on that part. So you, like imagine, they will ask you, you see a green dot, and then they're gonna ask you based on the hexadecimal colors. Well, here is like 4 flavors of green. Which is the green we're searching for here? And then in the question, they are going to ask you little things so you can actually figure out that they want that specific green. But
Okay.
that's the logic. You see, for, like normally in Cisco exams, 2 questions are a little bit what you need to think of, 2 other are absolute bogus. And then you can, well, if you're lucky, you pass it. If you're unlucky, you're not going to pass it. And Cisco, of course, has a lot of other tricks in their exams that you don't pass it by luck. But this, you get 4 answers which all make sense. And that's the trick, or it's not really the trick, but you need to read it really carefully, take your time to actually answer it. I think with my CCIE exam and also with the service provider core exam, you can just like, you see the question, you see the 4 answers or the 5 or the 6, and then you just one pops out, that's it. Continue and go on. I did some lab practice runs and their speed is not what you want to use in a D lab. But that's also the challenge which they say you, if you're a CCDE, you really need to figure out what your client or your, how you call it, what your client actually wants from you. You need to understand what goes on in their mind and then tailor the solution you want with the knowledges you have into something a little bit more practical.
So would you say that it's not as a requirement, but it is helpful to go to CCIE before going to CCD, or they are totally different paths, or one can help the other one?
I think one can help the other one. I think if you're a little bit younger and trying to figure out what you want, you really need to or when I went to university and had all this computer science stuff, there was all this classes about business logic, like you can do this, that, economics, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So my mind said, bored now. Let's go to the hardware and the software and the networking stuff. So for those guys, I would say go CCIE all the way. That's more fun. But actually, if you're younger and you're already interested in the whole economics, the business logic, and everything makes networks works to begin with, because somebody had to think of how to build and design them to begin with, and actually get a lot of money to actually build the networks. And if you like that more, then you can actually try to attempt a CCD. I would still do the P level exams first to really see if you like it or not. What I understood from everybody who said the CC or CCDE, that the CCIE part is the easy bit from it. I don't know
Really?
what you thought of your lab exam. I thought it was a nightmare to begin with. So yeah, well, challenge accepted.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So you got into IT or into certification or in networking, right? During the college in university.
Yes, the university we had a little bit of it, and it was always like we had a whole university and we had a 10 megabit uplink, and we figured out it was Cisco stuff. And we figured out the IT guys didn't change the default network password, so we had a little bit more quite quick. And that's how I started with Cisco stuff. I actually graduated after some time with a lot of AI questions we can maybe get into later. Then we had the dot-com crash here in the Netherlands, so it was a little bit hard to find a job. But I actually found a job at a small internet provider, and there got my little hands dirty on the Cisco equipment. Still the good old 2600, 36 firewalls, the whole shebang of everything an internet provider back in 2003 had.
So you started really with
Early.
get your hands dirty, like
Yeah,
configuring.
well, like, can you upgrade a router? Like, if you now say that to anybody, they say yes, sure, or like, and even an entry technician can do that. Upgrading a router back then, you actually had to take the flash out, put a new flash in, and then the flash was empty because it was Cisco proprietary flash. You cannot put it in a CF slot. So what you had to do is connect the serial port to it, which is 9600 baud, and transfer a file over serial. Of course, that's gonna take till infinity and beyond. But if you put it on 150K, like, okay, that's also Stone Age slow, then you get some serialization errors. So that was fun. Or and then imagine you're in a hospital, they say, yes, you can upgrade the router. You have from midnight till 6 in the morning, it's 5 in the morning, and the file's still not on there. Then you start to, like, how you call, be a little bit nervous. But it worked eventually. But that was the fun part. Like life got a little bit better when the 6500s came around. They were like still funny because there were switches which you could actually transform into routers or make them a little bit more, or like they run CatOS and you can actually make them iOS. That was fun. Then of course back then we also had to die the day the internet died, when we all figured out you didn't need 3B sub 720s but 3B XL sub 720s because the root table came over what is it? 512 meg of size, which was the size the router could process. So then it was soft, how you call it, processing root updates. And then the whole internet just died on that day. I think it was 2012 or really long time ago by now, but every router had that problem. Then we started to filter out the nitty gritty /24 or
Okay.
just by the size of the root table of the internet was bigger than the memory a router had in it. It was also something nobody ever envisioned that the root table would become that stupidly big.
For real?
Yeah, well, like back in 20 or back in those times, nobody really gifted or knew about IPv6 or cared about it because IPv4, it will never run out. It's brilliant. But back then you were already like, okay, so we got a /10, maybe we should sell two /20s to people and make more money. And the /20s became 21s, 22, and eventually 24s. And if you have a /10, which is a gazillion /24s, that starts to size up your root table. And what just happened, nobody did root filtering, whatever at BGP. So nobody also filtered out all the bogus or all the small stuff. And then it was just a too big root table for a router to handle. and then you see a little crash on your 6500, and then it just stops working. But then the fun part is that happened all over the world because
Yes, that is. I can't imagine what it was to work like that. So it was the normal thing back then.
yeah, that was something everybody was buzzing around on forums and other like IRC channels that it's probably gonna happen.
Hmm.
But when it actually happens, nobody like, okay, so we predicted it should happen, and how do we fix it? Because like there is no internet, so you cannot really check on Google on how to like, or so you bring BGP up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and poof, router crashed again. What the fuck? And then, well, and then you start digging a little bit into the what's happening behind the doors, and then you figure out it's out of memory, and then well, then root filters came around,
And
and then I started to become a little bit bored in my job.
so back then you were just working. You went for you graduated. You're working.
Yeah, working didn't give a beep about certification,
Hmm.
or you do figure out at some point in your career that, hey, look, CCE, that actually equals up to a lot more money than I'm earning now. Maybe I should do that, but I didn't really get a chance back then to actually pursue, how you call it, certification, or was pushed, or there was no need for it to have it. Like the guy I worked for was ex Cisco, it's all, don't care.
Okay.
So eventually you go a little bit into the, I always call it, like in Holland, we have this little trick with kids. You tie a stick to their head, put some candy in front of it, and you make them run after it. And when you can grab it with your mouth, you can get it. Of course, that's never going to happen. And that's a little bit how I explain my old job. Like, we will give you infinity, but you can just never get to it. So
Okay.
quit, went into contracting. Contracting in the Netherlands is the opposite of fixed jobs. So you need to have a certification. So thinking about or yeah, ICND1 I had in 2 months, ICND2 the next month. Then I think it was another 2 months I got my CCNP. So then I was going like, oh boy, I'm on track. That's fun. And CCNP back then was still cut in three levels. You had the switching, you had the routing, and you had the troubleshooting. And spoiler alert, we're actually trying to get Cisco to reintroduce the troubleshooting part of CCNP, but actually in a CCNA exam. Because if you now look at CCNAs, they're so bright and yeah, you just don't know how networks work.
Yeah.
And that's a little practical simlet that's really fun to do. Or I think everybody who has a CCNP and is now CCE can show their scorecards of their CCNP cheat sheet, and we all had 1,000 points. That's the only exam I ever aced. But that so got into contracting, so you need to get your Cisco thing. So a bunch of CCNAs, that was fun. CCNPs, that switching was really hard. Like it's like the Ansari nowadays, or I can only imagine it's like Ansari nowadays. They switching is quite a simple concept with a lot of fun parts in it, but how much can you learn about it? Well, if you ask Cisco, they can give you such a big book, and apparently you can, but that really was a hard exam. So it was like, wow, CCNP is, yeah, I'm proud. Like, yeah, let's do it. Routing came, and that was like a little bit simpler. Like, because with routing you have like a lot more options, so they cannot really dig in that deep. And then everybody was saying troubleshooting. Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst. Don't go troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is the end of the world. So you really go study, 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 make labs, try it out, break stuff, try again, and then you go to Cisco and do the T-shirt exam. And I came out slightly pissed because it was or I thought it was too simple. Like here's CCMPs. Remember the switching and then the routing, like was. So you really think you're God level, and then you have like, yeah, well, you cannot ping the next hop. What can possibly be wrong? And then I have to give it to them. There can be a gazillion things wrong if I think a little bit forward what they tried in my Cisco lab. But in CCNP, there wasn't that much wrong. It's really simple problems, like really simple problems, like my BGP pair doesn't come up. Yeah, because you had a typo in your pair address. Like what the fuck, Cisco? A long story got short. Ended the exam, then you get your scorecard, 1,000 points. I'm going like fuck, that was easy.
So you are expecting something harder.
I was really expecting something harder, and then there was this annoying little thing in my personality. Okay, right. So if this is the hardest exam everybody says, how hard can this CCIE thing be? So I started with that in 2015, and well, I only got it into 2020.
So before we jump into CCIE, let me see if I get this right. So the beginning of professional career, certification wasn't a thing like I
No, it wasn't
had.
a thing. You just like, here's a router, here's a switch, and then the switches and routers became a fuck lot bigger, but yeah, play with it.
Okay.
And then you had like also some of this Ericsson and Nokia stuff. It's just like, well, boot it up and play with it and make customers happy. Or that was the, so it was a steep learning curve, but a fun or really practical. Just get your feet in the clay and fuck around with it.
Which was great because you were in a multi-vendor environment, right?
Yeah, and it's like Cisco HDLC is expensive. Back then there was a little thing called Cyclades. It's also still Stone Age Internet. HDLC is a serial protocol 2 megabits private line.
Yeah.
And you needed to have Cisco HDLC cards, else it wouldn't work. So there was a company who built PCI cards, which you could put in a FreeBSD system where you could connect a Cisco to a box Linux PC on the other side. That was actually a fun project to do. Because you could
Okay.
like do the same, but then just cheaper,
Okay.
which is really a Dutch thing, by the way.
And then you realize this is boring. I want
Yeah,
something more. And
I'm a network engineer, and you're actually building a video transcoder, which could transcode video in real time, which was also still really fun to do, but had absolutely nothing to do with networking anymore. And then I thought, like,
you were just trying to, okay, I want to have fun. I want challenge.
well, like the good thing about the job, because like you quit it, so it wasn't that brilliant, but we had like freedom on Fridays. Fridays were fuck around Fridays,
Mm.
or same, I think, what Google still uses nowadays as a logic. You have free Friday, do whatever you want as long as it's sort of beneficial for the company. If you want to screw around, or like a longer time ago, I was screwing around with network access control. There was a little tool called Packet Fence where you can just like, you could install it on a server, and then every little, it was a little bit of zero trust thing, but then back in the Stone Ages again. Still works, by the way, and it's actually still network access control. But it was fun to play with. So you had like a student dorm, and everybody could just like do whatever they want on the internet, unless Snort detected they were doing something naughty, and then it was automatically isolated.
Hmm.
And I thought that's quite cool. And then you could have also like make it remediate itself. You just put them a little warning page on and say, don't do this again. Please swear that you won't do it again. Press this button, and then poof, internet back on. Then, of course, 5 seconds later, they were naughty again and they would still be isolated. And then there was the call home button, of course. But it
Mm-hmm.
was actually quite a fun tool. The developers were also really open and nice, and you could just like contribute a little bit of code and really make it a better product. Also, then we did IPTV in hotels, which was kind of cool. But then we were thinking like, is this online TV not gonna be a thing? YouTube was still not really a thing, or it was a thing, but not really with live stuff. So I came around some Texas Instrument DSP chips, which could actually ingest video, transcode them, and send them out on the internet within a second, which was quite conceptual groundbreaking back then. But then you still need to build a working project around it, which was a little bit harder. There were actually DSPs out of radars, which could really do H.264 really brilliantly and fast. But before you have a picture which works like I'm now looking at you and you're looking at me, that was still a little bit of challenging. But it was really fun to code that, to talk with other coders and make a working product. But if you're like your whole day is how you call it, your day starts and your day ends with debugging a transcoder product that had nothing to do with networking anymore, and I kind of missed that. So I quit my job, went into contracting, and that was fun.
Okay. By, co-
Started to
by
yeah,
contracting, you mean freelancing, right?
no, how you call it, consulting maybe is then the
Consulting.
word.
Okay. So working, like you open your own company and you were providing services?
I started to work for a company who provided those services, and they were searching
Okay.
for smart network engineers.
Okay.
So then I ended up at one of Holland's biggest internet providers again,
Mm.
which is Ziggo, which doesn't ring a bell to everybody unless you're in the Netherlands, I suppose. Ziggo was then being bought by Liberty Global, which is a little bit more international company. So they were really trying to soup up their competition. Like, if we make our products better, our company becomes worth more, and they need to pay more for our shares. So that was a really dynamical and interesting place to work in. So we still had the whole IPTV stuff, but then you did it with orbits and a content delivery network, and we had all kinds of Nexus and other fun stuff in this network. That's where I got a little bit like different approaches into security. Web application firewalls still wasn't a thing back then, but imagine you're the country's biggest internet provider. You've got an online service which provides video on demand and live TV. And then the first thing everybody apparently does in a country is like trying to get that out of the air. So you can put any firewall, load balancer, or whatever the fuck in front of it. They will still break it because there's this little thing called a DDoS. And back then it was quite hard to actually mitigate that in a proper way. Or you could mitigate it, but it was still service, how you call it, affecting. So what we then did, which was really cool, and also really have to give credits to all the, how you call it, my colleagues back then, we put a big IP load balancer in front of it, put the entire API of the, how you call it, the video service in the load balancer with iRules. Basically any request, any HTTP request which was aimed at the box, if it didn't know it, it would just throw it in the bin. And actually that kept it all up. I think now we call it web application firewalls, but back then it was still fun to do, or it was a pragmatical way to make your little service actually stay alive on the internet.
So it looks like you had like exposure to different technologies, different vendors. Kind of
Yeah,
as the time
it's
went
like,
on, you are acquiring all these different skills.
yes. Then my little adventure at Ziggo ended a little bit prematurely because they were sold off and contract wasn't really extended. Or that was more like a business, how you call it, a business problem than an engineering problem, because it's really when you work there, you come to the office a day and then your pass doesn't work. And then you call your boss, like, what the fuck? No, you need to work today. What's the problem? Well, can't get in. Okay, let's call security. Go, yeah, no, you're not an employee anymore. Like, but somewhere screwed up in the accounting. It was an accounting problem. Long story got short. You go back to your company saying, oh yeah, well, unemployed now, so go find me another job. Then I actually ended up at the air traffic control company of the Netherlands, and since then I'm still there till this day.
Okay.
And
So
that was really multi-vendor with everything you can, or if you compare a big ISP which has a commercial, how you call it, long, okay, Dutch, English. If it's a commercial company, there's like always like constraints you need to like live by. And in a commercial business, everything needs to go fast, fast, fast because we need to make more and more and more money. Or basically customer happy and make more money. That's the two things which work in commercial world. Traffic is totally the opposite. They don't care about A, money, or B, speed. It just needs to work, and it always needs to work. And there shall be nobody who can break it. So in resiliency, that's really like I wouldn't say it's over-engineered, but it does exactly what you expect it to do. It will never break. Then of course it still breaks because that's life. But that's where your troubleshooting skills come in really handy. So I started actually when I started there, it was an Alcatel Lucent MPLS network which needed to be extended and upgraded and made a little bit better. So that started in 2016 and I passed my CCNP in 2015. So you can imagine what I was doing on the background. And then you start meeting more people who are in this CCIE world. So you still have the idea, well, how hard can it be? You actually go do a written exam. And written exams back then were still hard, but they weren't stupidly hard. And praise the Lord, I passed in one go. I'm going like, okay, fuck, this is fun. Now I can do a lab. What the fuck do I need to learn for a lab? If it's gonna be as hard as the troubleshooting exam, how hard can it be? So you kind of like read a book, do a little bit of online testing, and then when I learned for CCNP and CCNA, did it with CBT Nuggets. Really like, or back then you didn't have the gazillion options of trainers, and it was just like either you have the fun one or the serious one. Have to give it for CBT Nuggets that they really give you how you called your content in an educational but fun way. It was really engaging, and you wanted to learn, and you wanted to do it, and you wanted to keep learning and keep coming back. Then people said, no, 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 no. CPT Nuggets for CCIE is going to be a tough cookie. Like, yes, you can do your written with it, but no problem. You need to get INE. So went to INE. INE still had boot camps back then, and that was a brilliant investment. Because A, you get an iPad if you give them a lot of money, and you get a 7-day CCIE bootcamp. And that was 7 days, 14 hours a day of bootcamping, because it was preparing you for the lab. And then you kind of figure out that what you were learning and how you were approaching the CCIE was totally wrong. The guys from INE go so in depth and so want you to know and understand everything. It was like unreal. Plus, when you're thinking about your CCE and how hard can it be, you kind of know it's an 8-hour exam, but you never really like, well, 8 hours, like I'm sitting 8 hours in office. How hard can that be? Well, a lab is really not, it's really sitting on your ass for 8 hours. That's what people forget in the first place. And so this INE bootcamp was really designed in frying your brain with technology, technology, technology. Like you really know how everything works. And they fried you with this 14 hours of continuous throwing stuff at your brain. So that was really fun. Like if they actually wanted it, or I would recommend INE to start that business again because it's really like entertaining and a lot of people in the Netherlands actually did it. And they also had a fun little policy. If you fail the lab, you can redo our bootcamp as much as you want.
That's great.
I did a bootcamp. I did it the next year. They had another bootcamp. Did that bootcamp. Then did my first lab. That was a horrible experience.
How was the preparation schedule before you attempt the first lab? In terms of
Books,
hours?
not really that, or compared to the second attempt and the third attempt, it was really minimal. It's like you have this, or maybe it's called cockiness when you're still young. Like how hard can it be? Like it's a how you call it? It's a business certification. They claim it's got level, but yeah, how hard? So you read the books, you do an IED, you do these practice lab. There were other guys also on LinkedIn offering labs, and you go like, okay, I can do this. So then you go to the lab, and then you're already a little bit intimidated when you have to go to wherever they give you those lab locations. Mine was Brussels. You have to like figure out where you can get into the building, and well, then you go actually into the room for your lab, and yeah, it's just 2 screens, a keyboard, and that's it. And then you get your little. I still had the 5.0 lab, so mine was troubleshooting, diagnostic, and then configuring.
But that's the old version.
That's the old version, so I had really much fun because, of course, troubleshooting was really not that hard. Diagnostic is like, that's why I'm doing the CCDE now, because in diagnostic back then you get a customer story and you didn't get any console access to whatever, you just get a story, a couple of emails, and tell me what's wrong. It's a little bit what CCDE now also wants you to do. So I got that, and then you start with the configuring stuff, and that's where I'm really fucked up. You get a big, how you call it, you open up a web page which says these are all your tasks you need to do. So you start reading at chapter 1, and then you work through it. So that was error 1. Error 2 was not really practicing for 5 hours on a single try to doing that, because brain just fried up at an hour, and it was going like, what the fuck? And of course, when you know the lab and you know Cisco, or at least you learned it from your first time, somewhere at I call chapter 2.5, they actually ask you to break it all down and restart again because you just need to add a new feature which cannot only be done with starting all over again. Long story got short, I ran out of time. I spent $1,600 on a fucking lunch. So
Just
really,
expensive sandwich.
Yeah, that was well, I had a couple of sandwiches, was still a little bit fatter back then. I had a lot of food for 1600 euros. That was, so you go back to the hotel, and that's what's known in Cisco terms as the walk of shame. Everybody who goes out at 5 at the Cisco lab exam didn't really pass, or there is like this much chance that you actually passed it. Walk to the hotel, have a beer, drive back home, and well, go figure out how to do it next. Two, problem one, written expired because written was only valid for 2 years. Took my lab. I wanted to do a lab again, and oh well, if you got your written, that's also a little bit holy things. First, back into the written part. Bootcamp had a new trainer, which was actually also an interesting guy. Back to an I&E bootcamp. I actually did 5 of those.
You didn't have to pay the falling ones.
No, that was brilliant. Like each year
Oh.
you showed back up. It's a Romanian guy actually, and he has a really good way of teaching you. And he loves the color magenta. You now ask me what his name was. You have to give me a little bit because I need to Google it.
Mm.
But another boot camp, and then you really get a little bit of hang. Okay, fine. So this is what they want. So I need to do a lot more of practice labs because apparently that's where I suck.
Did
So
you change
okay,
your strategy? Did you change in comparison to the first
yes.
attempt?
So strategy change one was read the whole book and then make a plan. Because I figured out with the little trick like start all over again, they probably do that a little bit more. So change strategy and do a lot more practice lab, practice lab, practice lab. So again, go to do written, do bootcamp, go to Brussels and fail again. Because somewhere mental overload. I forgot really stupid simple things. Like a DMVPN tunnel didn't come up and was going like, what the fuck? And that really kept me busy for more than an hour on
That's
figuring
bad.
out what was wrong. And well, maybe it wasn't an hour, but in my brain it was really
Yeah.
long. And eventually it just goes like, time's up. I was going like, fuck, I was close. I could smell like the end, and I didn't make it because I just forgot simple things. So,
But in terms of
okay.
configuration, you felt
Yeah, just
like
like you just draw a blank. Like you're there, you're scared shitless. Because I find the lab exam actually quite intimidating as a person to me. You are there the second time, so you're a little bit more relaxed, but you're still scared shitless in what they ask you. Because you also think I did this before. Probably it's some of the same. Well, Cisco surprised me and gave me a totally different lab. So, second time, still failed. Fuck, 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 fuck. Okay, now what? So, again, needed to do my written exam again, because of course that expires again. So that I think I did it 3 times eventually. Started really to study a lot more and a lot more intense. So actually just after work go home and then just lock yourself in a room and do 5 hours of labbing. Then I thought like, okay, I'm getting there. Like this is gonna be fun. I can do this.
so five
Then
hours during the week or even on
yeah,
weekends.
no, also in the weekend 5 hours and during the week 3, 4 times a night just doing labbing and getting the hang of this configuring stuff and especially in the whole problem of really remembering every little thing out of your head. Just go blank in it and do it like you do it in the lab. You have a notepad and that's it. Because I did notice myself, if you want to learn a technique, you do it once, you do it twice, you do it 3 times, you kind of remember it, and then you start to make these little notepads where it's just like you need to do this. Okay, paste it in. Board now, next stuff. Give me harder stuff to solve. Give me harder stuff to solve. But what I notice with myself, you forget the simple or the simpler stuff by well, it's not automating, but it's cheat. You cheat yourself. Like you don't need to make notepads. You can make notepads to do big configurations things, but you don't save those notepads. That's where I fucked up. Because it's like, can you configure this BTP thing and you like a whole full mesh? Yes, clickety clickety pasty pasty and boof, it worked. Fine, fun. I can remember this out of my head, right? Right. Yeah. No, couldn't. So, September 2019, Cisco did a famous announcement. We're gonna make a new CCIE exam. And it's gonna be fun because you can do software-defined networking and blah blah blah. So what happened in the world of everybody who was aspiring their CCE? Fuck. So I was like, I just need to do a lab. How hard can it be, right? Since September 2019 till I think December, there was no lab seat anywhere in the world. Everybody wanted to do their CCE because everybody was shared shitless of the lab exam you did. So that was fun, and I'm going like, yeah, I don't want to do my lab, or I really want to do my lab, and I really want to pass it. So study. Actually, just take 3 months off work and do this 8 9 hour days. Like really do just take 9 hours to do a configuring task of a lab. Like you could buy those. I think it was called Cisco 360, where you could buy actual labs or old labs or whatever they were, but they were sort of like the lab exam I did, but different. But like if you can do it in 8 hours, yeah, then I can squeeze it that I can do it in 5 hours. So just don't work anymore, just 5 days, study. Okay, so now it's like October, November, still no fucking lab seats. So start bitching at Cisco, like, hey Cisco, when is the rollover time? He said, why? Well, there are people who are canceling their labs, or
Hmm.
so then at night seats started popping up in Tokyo and in like the United States and all that stuff, and going like, okay, interesting. Who's gonna pay for that? Well, answer was not my company. No, if you want to do a lab, it needs to be in Brussels. So I acquired the unique skill of figuring out, or waking up each night at 3, figuring out when the US time flipped over, when lab seats actually became available again. So that took me quite some weeks to figure out when exactly at night it was. And spoiler alert, it was 3:30 in the middle of the night. New seats showed up, and then I could actually book a Brussels seat. So I had a Brussels seats for 20th of January. I was happy as fuck. Get all those practice lab, really just to take at least 8 hours a day to sit on your ass and doing labs and doing nothing but labs and only getting out of the room to take a toilet break. And one time a day you could do 30 minutes for lunch, because that was it. That's what you could do in a lab also, except for getting a lot of coffee. So that's what I did. Then it was January. I actually met an engineer in the hotel the night before, who also gave me a brilliant piece of advice, or don't know everybody else did it, but when I was in the hotel and I had my lab the next day, I would lock myself up in a bathroom with tablets and books and just learn all night long and then be fucked in the morning. And when you go there, that's probably why my brain went dead. That guy said, nope, you're gonna get drunk with me now. You're gonna go to bed. You're not gonna touch a single book because you know everything. There's nothing you can learn tonight which will fuck you up tomorrow. So we didn't really get drunk, but we had 2 3 beers. Went to bed, woke up the early morning, sit in the lab, and then go like, okay. So troubleshooting, diagnostic was still the easy bit, but this time I actually finished it before time, so you had more time left. So before lunch, I could already start with the big configuring part. So we had lunch, get a talk, or that's the socially awkward bit at Cisco, and then you get back after lunch, and then 2.5 hours later, I was done. I'm going like, well, this never happened before. Does it work? Yes. Interesting. So I must have missed something. Does it really work? Yes. But it's 2:30. What? No, cannot be. Test again. Test again. Well, eventually at 3 o'clock, I said, fuck it. It's yeah, this or I'm fucked. Because there's no way I'm gonna get another seat before February. Went to the hotel, waited for everybody else to show up, and then, well, then the fun part gets off the Cisco lab. You don't hear that you got a pass. Or, like, they are really quick with telling you you failed, but they take a little bit longer in telling you you had good news. So, waited in the hotel to 7, 8, had dinner. Fuck, still no email from Cisco. Okay, well, we can F5 on this website and see if there is a. No, 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 no. Okay, drive home, back to Holland. Got to get back home at 10. Fuck, still no news. Okay, but keep F5ing that fucking website, because I want to know if I passed or failed. Okay, still, it was 1 at night, still nothing. And by then, Cisco blacklisted me from the website, because I was apparently checking my results a little bit too quick. Fuck! Okay, well, nothing left but take a nap. So at 4 in the morning, or that's the 3:30 bit, Cisco woke up, and then, yeah, you passed. So that was like my happy moment of life.
Yeah.
It also costed me a lot, probably cost me my marriage back then, but it was like the fun part.
Uh,
And then
so
you start like then you're really on the biggest high of your life, I think.
yeah.
So I booked a flight ticket to Toronto, went to the Niagara Falls, and then figured out there was something wrong in the world because everybody was wearing mountain caps. Didn't pay attention to it, and then by the time we got back, the world stopped with operating. So that was fun.
So during the study, during that journey, you weren't paying attention to COVID, what was happening.
No, I was just busy with getting the CCE and actually like fucking. It's the third time. This is gonna be the time.
Yes, you had all these plans like, nope, the world is going to end tomorrow. Like, no, I have to become a CCE before
Yeah,
Cisco
I have to
changed the
be.
exam.
Exactly. Before Cisco changes the exam, that was the only thing, and you didn't pay attention to all. I was really amazed when I landed in Canada that you had people with mouth masks, and what the fuck is going on here? Like, I just want holiday. Fuck off.
And
And
then
then you,
you realize actually we have
yeah,
a
there's this thing called life around studying. Get it? And then life changed a little bit. Of course, I got well, I had my CCE still happy, but then aviation, of course, collapsed on his ass, which was a little bit the scary part if you got a high paying job and well, there is nothing to do actually. So back,
how much the CCIE changed you as a professional? Did you feel like you improved in some way?
yes, I do think that at least like you have, or I think every human has a special talent in some way, and I always had it with computers or networks. Like if somebody tells me I have a problem, give me a minute, okay, and I will tell you what it is. And then with this CCIE, people actually start to listen to you because apparently you know now. And that's really what changed. Like, imagine like over-dimensioned and over-redundant networks, and something goes wrong in there. When you were studying for it, and when you say it's gonna be that little issue, and everybody looked at you like, right? And when you had your CC, people actually go like, oh, yeah, you know. Plus this little thing called LinkedIn, and as soon as you put 5 numbers in your after your name, every recruiter in the world wants to have a chat with you. Because that really, or like at first I was happy with it, and then it started to annoy me really a bit. But yeah, like COVID really had a huge impact on everything in life here. Like we weren't allowed to go out, and back then I still had, or me and my ex-wife, we had horses, so that was like a fun little project on the side. So you could still have your merry little lives, but there was no conference. There wasn't anything really to do. Like you could, like how you called, annoy yourself with getting another CCIE, because I did think like, okay, I did one, I can now do service provider. Then I figured out that that is a lot harder than it looks like. So I stopped with studying for that and then just focused a little bit of getting the 3 years I lost in my life, getting a CCIE back. And then did some nitty, I don't know what I hold. Oh yeah, DevNet came. DevNet I started with after my CCE was done, because DevNet came out in 2020. And that really was fun, or really like it still till this day. And I think then I stopped a little bit with all this certification stuff for Cisco U came around, or digital learning was what Cisco had, and then they went into Cisco U somewhere. But it's like this whole COVID time is something which is a little bit blocked in my brain.
I feel like there is some gap
Yeah, well,
between the.
like 2021, I know I was still studying, doing all this DevNet stuff. 2022 was a little bit like, then my wife said, I don't want to be your wife anymore. And then the world kind of collapses under your legs. Then you first need to fight and arrange all that stuff. And then in 2023, that was a little bit like sorted, and finally a judge said you're really divorced. So then I called, took some time off of work and went to my brother in Sweden and lived there for a little bit more than a month and resetted my brain. And then I got back here in Holland, met a really wonderful woman, which I actually married on the 2nd of February of this year. But that
Congrats.
also like screws up your little learning life a little bit. But since like we were together for 4 years, and well, this CCDE thing was really poking my mind already for a longer time. Like in 23, we had the first Cisco Live in Amsterdam again. Then I met David, and then he was still aspiring to become a DE. In 2024, he actually made it, and then he posted his story on the Cisco Learning Network. The 7 times that really took a huge, how you call it, commitment. Yeah, then Nicholas Rosso, who was also really active in the world of like CCDE and service provider, and I then was still thinking I can do the service provider thing. But Nicholas Rosso also unfortunately died. Well, that was really a big impact, or that hurted me a little bit harder in my life. And then again, there was Cisco Live, and it was becoming a little bit more fun. I got the hang of the Cisco Live stuff actually. I have to say it to Amsterdam, like first Cisco Live in Amsterdam was brilliant. It had carpets and you had ribbons and you had a stupid end party with a whole lot of strange stuff. And then the second one was a little bit boring, but then yeah. If people ask me, is Cisco Live worth it? Absolutely. You can get your learning credits there, which is brilliant. Like you can get 70 points of a Cisco Live, and then you only need to get 50 more and you're recertified. Like how brilliant is life? And it's like you meet so much, like there's so much where there's the most, like the biggest concentration of CCIEs in the world are at Cisco Live, because the only place in the world where we really get the recognition we all crave for. Cisco puts you on a pedestal like, haha, you're a CCDE, so now you can sit up front. And I really got into this Cisco Insider thing. And it's Cisco Insider, which is, well, sorry to plug it, but I
But
like
what is
them.
it? Yeah, elaborate for those who don't know. What is it?
Cisco Insider is an online community where you engage with Cisco products and Cisco people. You do research like, this is the Cisco website. Does it actually do what you want it to do? When I joined with Cisco Insiders, how do you use the Cisco site? I don't. I use Google to find what I need to do on the Cisco site because that works. Your search sucks. So then they said, well, why don't you join the Cisco Insider team then? Okay, what's in it for me? And then the answer was swag. So swag. So you actually, well, you do a lot of like late research, like we have this feature, we have that feature in the website. Then they actually start to introduce you to newer products. You have like a lot of social interaction also with people, but you get a little bit more into the Cisco way of thinking in the Cisco world. And then at Cisco Live, you always have like these private lounges and other fun. You get exclusive access behind the scenes of Cisco Live. So if people want to engage a little bit more and actually A, want to help Cisco out, and B, want Cisco to help you out, because you get store vouchers, you get t-shirts, you get all kinds of fun stuff, do check out the Cisco Insider team. And I know in how you call it, they were going to introduce a new program again at Cisco Live in the US, which also has a little bit more of the fun part in it. Because we're all engineers, we all love tech, but there's also this little thing called social interaction, which we sometimes forget.
Yeah, and we need it.
Oh yes, and I do have to give them for that they actually we always have like weekly or monthly WebEx where we have a little bit of fun with each other, and it's really like a nice little community, but also a community where like, oh yeah, I have this problem with work with this type of router and that type of software and it doesn't work, then people just gather around and help you out. And that's really what I like about it too. And then at Cisco Live, of course, because I am an insider and I'm a or rock star, because that's the program they had. You can get into this. I had like the Cisco Champion Radio, which actually is a YouTube show. You get interesting tech thrown at you, and also did a tech unscripted, which will be online somewhere in July, where you also like get into contact with newer technologies and actually with the people who engineer and make it. I know so much stuff about Wi-Fi 8 now, it's unreal.
So, studying AI, you did CCDE. You don't plan to get another CCIE. So,
No, I am gonna focus a little bit on just this one because I think that the biggest talent we have as humans is how you call it, dream about infinity and beyond. It's a little bit Toy Story logic, but I can split my attention between a CCE and a CCDE. And then I figured already, if I look back at how I got my CCE in the first time, no, I do not have the time to split my attention to it. I have a private life, I have work, And if you have that and you still want to get a CCDE, that's going to be a tough cookie to crack. I wanted to do the CCIE service provider, but yeah, I just don't see I have the time to do this. And CCDE actually provokes you as a human to do things outside your little nice comfort zone. I'm an engineer in heart and soul. Every problem you throw at me, I can think of a solution. But well, I won't say I don't know, but I don't care about businesses. I don't really care about, or I used not to care about what a customer really wants and listen to their business stories like, will that make a better network? No, because I'm the engineer, I know better. So listen to me, right? Yeah, but that's not how the world apparently works. So need to get out of this bubble and actually, well, create social skills, sort of speak, but actually, yeah, learn to listen and learn to think with the customer and yeah, build like solutions around that. And in the written exam, they ask you a whole bunch like about redundancy, like the time of repair and the
RTO,
when,
RPO.
yeah, well, yeah, how to get all that all back, and then you need to figure out that means how you call it, geo redundant designs and all that stuff. But that's it. Like they mention it in a sentence, and you need to figure out what they actually ask you, and that's a totally different approach than you have with CCIE. You just need to know a whole lot of tech, and all the other stuff doesn't really matter.
So does it mean
But
you're
you,
going for the lab exam? So CCD lab exam in
yeah,
the future?
yes, probably. Well, I don't know if I'm not gonna try it this year, but I envision it's gonna be a 1,600 euro lunch again if I try it once.
Cisco Live, or when happened this Cisco Live in Las Vegas, they don't sponsor CCD exam.
They sponsor you to do the written exam. They don't sponsor you to do the lab exam. What
Okay.
they actually allow, or what they did at Cisco Live also in Amsterdam, they have tech certs there where you can actually do part of a CCD exam with the guys who actually make the exam. So when I was there, I got 63%. So I knew I'm kind of, well, wouldn't say I'm fucked, but I need to learn and contemplate on where I screw up. Because what you then learn about the CCD exam, if you like take the wrong turn at how you call it, if you take a wrong turn, it keeps exploring that wrong turn. Like you kind of commit to the wrong turn. And then it will ask you to go back onto the right path, but that's also like different, how you call it, a different way of operating. Like if you're in CCE, it's either wrong or right. There is no other way. It works or it doesn't work. But that's also how they explain to me. Like if you're a CCE, you're, well, you wouldn't say you're one step behind the rest, but you really need to switch that part of your right, wrong. It's not black, it's not white, but it can be gray. Like accept it, it can be gray. I think how I explain to other people how I am as a CCE, it's either black or white. Works, doesn't work. There is no in between. That sort of works. Well, then it works, right?
Okay. Let me
And
see.
then with CCDE, there is this whole gray area. But also, like, imagine you're talking with a customer and trying to figure out how to build a design for them. If you both agree you go into the wrong direction, you commit to the wrong direction. And how can you like recover from that, from your own error, so to speak? Because you will figure out at one point you're like, okay, this doesn't really make sense anymore. Why are we committing to this path? Because the CCD is really about making the best possible solution and also asking why. You're challenging the other party. Why do you make this choice? Or can you explain why you want this? And then actually asking out in if they explain to you why they want it, is this actually what you mean there?
I always thought that the CCDE was more for those who want to work like at CTO positions where you're not technical, but you kind of need to understand the business language and a
No,
little bit of the technical language. Not too much. It's not an engineer per se, but someone who understand like the technical requirements, the technology.
yes, I heard that too. Well, that's not what they ask you in the written exam. Written exam is a little bit 50-50 between really technical stuff and really business stuff.
Okay.
They want you to have a really strong baseline understanding about networking and thinking in a business way.
Okay.
So all the
So
networking questions are like really easy, or they're not really easy, but they are
for you, they were
relatively
easy.
easy. Yeah, they're relatively easy because you kind of understand what they're asking and what they probably mean. Like the business stuff was really challenging for me.
Okay. So I want to ask you a couple of final questions. So you are CCIE, ton of years of experience, and you kind of grew your professional career by doing. So based on the times we are living right now with AI, the market seems all change. What would you recommend to someone who wants to get into networking or IT? Like, do you have a path, like what this person should choose, like to have the best opportunity to be the perfect match in the market right now, based on your experience? I don't know, in Holland, Netherlands.
If I would do it now, I would probably first go look around on YouTube. There is absolutely no technology which is not explained on YouTube in a way. Then figure out what type of, how you call it, education works the best for you. For instance, like take the difference between David Bombal and Network Chuck. Both teach you exactly the same CCNA, but maybe you have a little bit more for David or a little bit more for Chuck. It's like it's personal how you like to learn. With me, the CCNA was really about fun stuff, like you do the finger game with doing subnetting. It makes absolutely no sense now in my life, but back then it was like really okay. I can do one. Yeah, that makes sense. Like figure out with learning with looking at stuff because the world is infinite and there is nothing on the internet which hasn't been done by now, and figure out what actually works for you. Because when I like INE really worked to getting me onto the next level, but I would have never chosen INE to get my CCNA because INE really wants you to know everything, and that you don't need to know everything when you get a CCNA or P. By the like to know everything works only for the IE part, I think.
But we just say that people should start with CCNA training or CCNA certification.
I think there is like really if you like networking or well, if you like networking, get a CCNA to begin with. It the effort you're gonna put into it doesn't really outweighs the profits you're gonna get from it when you actually have it. If you have a CCNA and you start in your career, people will, I wouldn't say jump on you, but probably jump on you, especially in the world how it is now. It really gives you like an edge ahead. As I see it, like you can get a Juniper or a Huawei or a Nokia similar CCNA certificate, but the Cisco one is a little bit it's more broader. Interestingly, the CCNA exam is less about Cisco products as the rest of the exams I took in my life, but it just brings you up to a basic understanding level on how everything works and how it's all interconnected to each other. And it's quite of a fun exam to do, I thought.
Okay.
But
And
what I do know, like if you let's not do the pixel refresh thing now. Like there are times in life when you don't have to do it, but figure out if you really want to do it. Like CCNA, it is a commitment because A, the exam costs money and quite some money, and B, it's not really that simple to do it because you really need to know a lot about everything.
okay.
And then I hope Cisco actually is they are. I know they are in the process of updating the CCNA because also Cisco figured out it's a little bit too wide.
Too light?
The wide.
Okay.
You need to know a lot about a lot. So eventually, like, and how we distill it, so you know a little, but you don't know that much. You can still not, how you call do troubleshooting on a network, right? And then it's yeah, yeah, well, you're kind of right. Yeah, so maybe change the CCNA back to not how it was, but learn from how it was.
Okay. So CCNA, that will be one. Now, for those seasoned professionals who probably already got this CCNA and they have years of experience, which path would you recommend them to take? CCIE or CCDE?
Depends on if you more have more feelings with are you really like in love with technical stuff, or do you actually also care about business logic? Or probably in your professional path, you already came across some challenges where you have to think about budgets and or like you get less money or you get less money to solve a problem than how you would solve it as an engineer. And then you need to make the best out of it. And if you like that more than actually being pissed off that you don't get what you wanted to build, if you're the pissed off guy, go for a CCIE. If you actually like the whole part of listening to what you can do and build the best based with what they throw at you, CCDE is also really a thing to how you call it consider. Why I'm doing a CCDE now, I'm 46-year-old, I'm getting old, and I frankly also come to how you call it, came to realize that younger people think faster than I do, or I think they do, or they're a little bit more into what happens in the world now. So I also need to like widen my wings and do I really want to be a network engineer for the rest of my life or do a little bit more? And I do think having a design, how you call it, if you can prevent the network from being shitty, your CCE job won't be as hard anyhow anymore. Like if I can prevent, how you call it, how you call it, disputable designs from being implemented in real life by having this CCDE knowledge in my brain, then the life of the engineer who actually needs to maintain and operate the network becomes a lot better. And I've been a lot on the receiving end, and now I prefer to also be a little bit more capable on the sending end. Or actually making my communication and technical skills on such a level where I can alter courses when people make choices.
Okay, final question. How can network engineers or IT professionals survive this AI adoption in companies?
I think you need to, how you call it, slide in a little bit. There is so much on the internet about it. Play with it. I would say it seems to be a steep learning, how you call it, learning thing, but there is so much fun stuff on the internet where you can just grab it from GitHub, install it on the local server and play with it. And it actually gets to a point where you, well, I wouldn't say you can get a CCIE into a box, but it starts to become interesting that it can also make documentation and drawings for me, which is stuff I don't like to do as an engineer, actually. I build stuff, I don't document stuff. But if I can make an AI bot look at my network and figure out how I build it and then how you could make the documentation for me in a form which is acceptable for management, that actually makes me quite happy. So I would say, I don't know, play around with AI, how it can like make your own job a little bit better. Because we all need to do stuff in our jobs we don't like to do, and we keep doing it. But now we have AI who can, well, mainly do a lot of it for us. So I would say it doesn't really like, it doesn't really hurt you, but it like kind of like extends you and makes your life a little bit easier. And you just like embrace it, play with it, and make it your own. And maybe it can help you further in life. And if not, well, you still learn a little bit, and skills are. If AI is a bubble, you learn something you cannot use anymore. If AI is here to stay, well, you have learned a valuable skill. And that's how about taking chances in life. And learning is fun anyhow. And you learn a little bit of Python, and you learn a little bit of GitHub. So how worse can it be? Yeah, and it's gonna be fun anyhow, because you break stuff and then you fix stuff and then you break it again and then it doesn't work. And that's a little bit fun screwing around in Linux.
Embrace AI adoption, learn a little bit, and be ready for the change.
Yeah, be ready and just like learn from it and make it your own, make it do stuff for you. Like let it make your own life a little bit better. I think that's the best way to learn it anyhow.
Great advice. We're going to end for now. And I want to appreciate you for taking the time and hope to have
You're
you
welcome.
another one.